Hello, my name is Grandmother Christine. I would love to share a wee story with you today. This story is called The Blessed Family Memories. And these are the stories my Grammy has shared with me. Do you have a Grammy? Let's begin. Snuggle in now and I'll tell you a wee little story about the wee folk and the tall people in the Vales, where we are today. So here we go. Once upon a time, I remember when my world was filled with little wee folk in the Vales. The Vales was a magical place that opened my eyes to the wee folk. Now, many years later, I find myself back in the Vales, surprisingly discovering that my Grammy stories could actually be true. And I did meet the wee folk. Or did I? Grammy was always sharing stories about the wee folk of the Vales, as she called them. But I really thought she was just a wee bit foggy in her thoughts department at that time. The stories were filled with wee folk who resided under pots, in trees, in businesses to support them, and well, just about everywhere in the community. It was as if the wee folk lived along the tall people as a whole community. What a nice place. Grammy's stories would always start with, now, where was I again? Oh, yes, my friends who lived down the street at number 42. 42 and a half, actually. Yes, in the almond tree. Almond tree? I had thought to myself as I got a little bit older, yeah, she's lost her marbles. Definitely. But had she? She was filled with kindness and a very gentle nature. And well, she had a very interesting twist to how she saw her world. Yes, that describes my Grammy very well. Then fate stepped in for me when my Grammy moved into the garden behind the Union Chapel, and I inherited her wee cottage in the Vales. The cottage was quite small, not like I had remembered it at all. It was a wee bit run down too, but this was to be my new home for now, and I did have some beautiful memories within the Vales as a child visiting my Grammy. Just a wee bit of elbow grease. Oh no, I sound like my Grammy. And all will be peachy, she would say to me often. You know, I was going to make this move work for me, as I had really nowhere else to go. This move was perfect timing for me, divinely orchestrated, you could say. I needed something, anything, to get me back to my joy. This was not me, that sad person I had become. I was full of joy once and was looking for that me again. Maybe I might find it in the Vales. Fingers crossed. The day came when I was to move into my Grammy's home. I stepped onto the porch of the wee cottage and relaxed down into my Grammy's favourite chair. Right then, I felt all those beautiful fantasy memories come flooding back to me that she had shared in my childhood. With the smells of the country, I could feel my Grammy hugging me. It was lovely. Yes, those children's stories of all the wee folk living alongside the tall people, those stories have brought me so much joy. I instantly felt transported back into my childhood times, and my imagination started drawing pictures once again in my thoughts. The Vales, that fun fantasy place where I found my imagination, my creativity, and a place that allowed me to be a child, to dream and believe that all was possible in my world. This place taught me to have faith, that all is as it should be, that there is never a right or a wrong. There just is learning, growing, and then sharing that. I loved the Vales community. I don't know how long I'd sat in Grammy's favourite chair, but the sun was starting to create long shadows from the almond blossoms along the road in front of the cottage. I wiped my watery eyes and unlocked my Grammy's cottage door. Beautiful, fond memories of my Grammy. It does bring tears sometimes. The following day, as I walked along the path to town, I planned to gather a few delicious cheeses when I remembered one of Grammy's favourite stories she used to share to me over and over again. The story consists of the Bless family and their antics. I entered the Blessed Cheese Cafe and slowly glanced over all the shelves for a wee container marked Bless Family Vegan Parmesan Cheese. But I had to laugh at myself, quietly really, as I remembered that they were just a story. The Bless family were only a story my Grammy used to share to me, that indulging child. No, I did not see my Bless family vegan Parmesan cheese on the shelf. So I slowly gathered my groceries and turned towards the path to Grammy's house in disbelief, scuffing my feet all the way home and sulking a wee bit. Well, that story became my life over the next days. I dreamt about nothing else and thought about that story often while settling into my new home. I did, though, go back to the Blessed Cheese Cafe the next weekend, as I had friends coming to visit from the city. This time, though, walking to the shop, I had a spring in my step and a warm feeling of joy filling my heart. The day was warm as I watched sparkles of light dancing along the path and on my feet too. I opened the door to the cheese shop and was greeted with a big sign stating, you guessed it, Bless Family Vegan Parmesan Cheese. What? It's created freshly today. What? What can I say? I stopped, stared for an instant with curiosity and some hope building inside of me that my Grammy stories may actually be real. I walked up to the counter, asking about the Bless Family Vegan Parmesan Cheese. This is what I asked. So, where did you get this cheese? And who makes it? Can I ask? The lady behind the counter smiled, replying matter-of-factly, it is one of our in-house products created here on the premises. By whom? I had to cry, which I thought sounded a little bit demanding and rude. But I had a burning need to know. I really wanted my Grammy stories to be real. I wonder if they are. It is a secret, Zoe, the young lady finally replied in a big cheesy smile. Secrets. I was still dazed at her response when I brought a container or 3 of the Bless family vegan Parmesan cheese and some other treats too for my friends to visit. Quickly I disappeared out of the shop with my goodies in hand and raced off home in disbelief, flinging the bell chime that hung off the shop's door into a glorious song behind me. Is my Grammy story true? Is it real? Sounds like it. Let's see. So, the weekend arrived when my friends from the city were visiting me. The table was set in the garden out back of Grammy's cottage, with her hand-embroidered tablecloth and napkins, ornate cutlery, and rose-painted crockery. I chose pink lemonade, sparkling local wine, and of pride of place, raised up in the centre of my festive garden tea table, sat my Grammy's childhood story, cheese products of course. An elegant afternoon tea fit for my friends to visit, I thought, and I was very pleased at myself. The stage was set beautifully, I may add, and now I was ready to share my story that Grammy had shared to me a long time ago. My friends were warmly greeted and sufficiently fed, so it was time to share my Grammy's Bless family story. I started with, "Would you believe me if I said?" and then proceeded to share the story just like my Grammy shared it to me, and added my experiences to date as I was discovering Grammy stories once again. So here's what my Grammy story sounded like. If I can remember all of it, that is. "Welcome, wee barns," she would say. "Here is a story about my community. The Bless family are my friends, living in the Vales, not far from here actually, supporting the community and the local cheese shop. The family lived on the premises and created the most scrummiest vegan Parmesan cheese, which of course I gestured to in the middle of our beautifully set table. No one knows how long they have been there, but as long as the Blessed Cheese Cafe has been here in the Vales, so too has the Bless family been sharing their tasty treats to the community and supporting the cafe. Now, the Bless family have a secret entry into the building. Ooh, a secret door. And only the heart of a child will ever see the entrance or even see them scurrying around through the dawn's fresh morning doing their chores each day. Do you have a child's heart? A fun, loving, joyous heart? I'm learning to. Each morning, the 5 children of the Bless family would wake bright and joyous and hurry out into the morn to do their daily chores. This is their part to create the family's famous cheese. They scurried around quickly amongst the new day's rays, only to return home before the tall people woke. They had warm, hearty breakfast and then spent the rest of the day divided up into play, of course, and schooling. Yes, even they went to school. I heard they had often got themselves into much mischief until the sun disappeared from the valley where the Vales is nestled. At night, after prayers were done, both parents would tuck their beloved children into bed and read a mousey story. That could be a hint when I share another story that my Grammy has shared to me. If I remember, well, the children sleeping soundly, it was time for the parents to gather the ingredients that their children brought in fresh that morn. Off they would go into their secret den to create the famous Bless Family Vegan Parmesan cheese. Exciting. Have you tried their cheese yet? To my surprise, my friend soaked up Grammy's story. I was sure I sounded like my Grammy a few times while retelling her tale. Each one of my friends then received a container full of the family's famous cheese and booked themselves in for another visit, so I could share more of Grammy's stories of the Vales and those wee folk. Well, that is if I could remember some more. I hope I do. The Bless Family Stories had so many chapters, but I did promise next time to share another chapter about how the children found their ingredients for the family's famous cheese on the shelf at the Blessed Cheese Cafe, still to this day. Go see. It's true. I felt real joy sharing my childhood stories with my friends, then completed the day by waving goodbye to my city friends and sitting out in Grammy's garden watching the birds feed and the sun setting on another very interesting day in my new home in the Vales. I felt blessed. Good night, sleep tight, blessings to all. Grandmother Christine.